linked up with us. And we have increased a requirement for reflection, but now they reflect better than they did through this Show, Slow, Grow template that Andy's going to talk to you about in a minute. And we've also dug into content. They've been reading some really good novels and having some discussions about it. We've been doing a lot of labs. We've done 5 labs so far, and all their skills are brushed up again. They're really good. It's good to see the 8th graders helping the 7th graders and showing them, oh, this is how you use the squeegee to get the puddle off. You don't use that towel, it doesn't absorb. Use a squeegee. It's like exactly what I said to them last year in the same tone. Like, I can hear you in your kid's voice when they're telling somebody else something, and I was like, snickered to myself because they were like, no, don't use that towel, it doesn't absorb anything, those brown towels. Use the squeegee. And it's like hearing 30 versions of myself. Yeah. And maps. Yeah.
Oh, click on the target.
Yeah, the back of the Show, Slow, Grow.
That's the link that I didn't know was a link.
So this is the kind of template for their reflection piece. So over here on the left-hand side is just a list of all the standards that they are doing for each unit. So it's going to list anywhere from 10 to 15 or so standards for each unit that we're working on right now. We're in iSearch, so there'll be a list of standards on that side. The red column here is the Show, which is basically the link to their evidence. How are they showing me that they know how to do this, and is that the best evidence you provide that shows me you know how to meet this standard, standard number 1 or standard number 7, or whatever one is. When we get into Slow and Grow, that's where the reflection piece happens. Here we want the kids in the yellow column to analyze their learning and really reflect back on what they did and what they learned from that experience. Not just how did I meet that standard, but what I learned about myself as a learner. What worked well for me, what didn't work well for me, what would I do next time, that kind of stuff. And then Grow is really moving forward. Moving forward, what am I going to do in the future that helps me be more successful? That kind of stuff is what we want them to reflect on. And hopefully through reflection on this, they can move forward to their learning and really know themselves as a learner much more deeply. And sometimes this is something that doesn't come naturally at first. So if you click on this, where it says guiding questions, it's on all their templates that they made. And they should have made these already put on their site and stuff like that. So you guys can take a look at them if you want to at home, and that's a great conversation you can have with your student. But this is how some guiding questions help them fill out that reflection piece. And what strategies work well for you, what resources you use to help you, what are you going to do next time, that kind of stuff. But we encourage all the kids to click on this if they're having trouble fill that out, to see what kind of things can jumpstart their brain when they're filling out that template. If you can go back to the other template, that'd be great. We've had some questions about.
Sorry.
That's all right. See if you click on the target. I still want to talk about that template.
Yeah.
So when they're reflecting, they need to reflect on each standard that they're doing. So sometimes I know for me, for social studies, the first standard we're doing, it's about making maps and reading maps and analyzing different types of maps and that kind of stuff. And right now we're talking about all the different types of maps. Physical maps, political maps, things like that. And then they're going to create their own map. And through a couple of different activities and a couple of different assessments, they're going to meet one standard. So once they've completed that entire standard and those couple of assessments, then they're going to reflect on that standard. They don't need to reflect on each individual activity that they do. And I know that was a question I got a lot when we first started this, but I think they're starting to get that piece, and they know how to link that stuff on here and turn it into the Turn-In tab too, which is a really good skill. In addition, there's some things that we're collaborating on, social studies, science, and language arts, that some activities that we do together that meet multiple standards. So if they do one activity, it meets 2 of my standards, one of social studies and one of language arts and one of science, which is an awesome thing to be able to tie all that together. But when they're reflecting, then they only need to reflect on that one assessment that they did or one activity that they did. They don't need to reflect on 5 different standards that we completed one time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's understanding what they need to reflect on and what they can kind of reflect on together is a huge piece for them. And I think this is a really good thing for us as a program. It really gets them to kind of understand where they're coming from and where they're going next. And that's a huge part of their learning. So
We really believe strongly that this is adventures, and they do a lot of this verbally already. We hear that, like I said, in the communication with us and what they're needing and advocating. And so it's basically just having and taking that time to sit down and think about themselves as a learner going forward. So now that I know this, what can I do now? What can I move on to next? And how does this help me and support me? And I think this comes pretty naturally to most of them anyway. It's just taking that time to sit down and have that reflection piece. And we do offer time within program to work on it.
Right. There you go.
Okay, the daily agenda, the main change to the daily agenda this year, I'm gonna touch on it a little bit, is that we have all three of us in program together at all times. And what that really allows is for us to offer more options for our learners. And so I'll kind of click on this. This is, I believe this is today.
Thanks.
So it's a little bit hard to read and kind of tiny. And we have learners actually open up their own computer screens, so they have this in front of them, so it's not as tiny for them as well. But as we offer all three of us in program all the way through the adventurous times, it allows us to open this up. So where they're traditionally just seeing those 2 or 3 options available to them last year, now they're able to see many, many more options available for their learning, and that includes personal flex or coaching workshops or conferencing times that are now available because the three of us are here. So we're actually really, really excited about that change, and the kids are really excited about that as well. That they have access to us always, all the time, whenever they have a question, either it's a quick question, it's I'm running over and checking in and conferencing quick and coming back to personal flex to continue working. We are always here, and they're not waiting on us. So that is something that we're really excited about going forward. At first, initially, the kids had a little bit of a hard time figuring out, okay, which session is in which hour. And so we do have some codes in here. This is 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So as they're planning their day, when they can see this clearly, they do know when they're coming in and out. And I think initially, we were worried that would be a problem for kids as they were planning their day. It's not. It's really not a problem for them. Like I said, they have those problem-solving skills. They have those planning skills that my child does not have.
And they're much more flexible than we are, apparently,
Yeah.
because they've risen to every scheduling challenge and offered suggestions, because they kind of live at a different level in it, and it's nice to have them say, well, you guys could do this, and then we, oh, brilliant, yes, and
We're
that's
back
kind
in-
of wonderful.
And so I think that's been a really exciting piece of this, and that within those options, they're able to look at, okay, what are my learning needs for today and going forward, and they're able to select what it is they truly need for their learning, not based on where their friends are going, but based on what they truly need, and that's been really exciting. But we still have that collaboration piece, which I think was another worry for some kids as they were coming in, because they know their friend's schedule just as well as they know their own. And so, and you know this, but I've asked them to do some one-on-one workshops. These are all collaborative, find a group, 2, 3 people to work with. Okay, Ms. Brown, we're available to do this during 2nd or 4th hour because we're all here. So they know exactly when their peers that they're working on different projects or labs with, they know exactly when they're here to do group flex or personal flex, discussions. They know all of that and what they're needing, and those problem-solving skills and communication skills, the 21st century skills that allow them to, it amazes me every single day.
And again, I've seen 8th graders during Daily Dish. I have seen 8th graders, and they did sit separately at first, but now they're kind of mixing it up more. I've seen 8th graders like pointing to the screen and helping 7th graders figure out their day. And that, I was like, oh, yes, because that's, you can't tell me that. They wouldn't. So, very careful not to notice when they do that.
Yeah. The other piece that we've made some changes to is this announcements link, and we're still getting learners in the habit of checking that every day, but they're using this as a tool to guide their learning as well. So this gives them more information on, okay, coaching workshop on TKMB, just to kill a mockingbird, tracking theme. What does that entirely mean? So by clicking on the announcements link, they get more information on what that workshop is offering, if they need to come to it or when it will be offered again tomorrow, if they can't make it today. We're doing more of a look ahead. So within the next couple of days, try to make sure you come to a seminar on this or that, or a coaching workshop on this or that, so that they're able to plan ahead as well, which is also really exciting, because I think the older they get, the more that they want to do that, and they're craving that, and they're asking for that. And that in and of itself is a really good 21st century skill, to be able to say, okay, today this is my plan, and I know that tomorrow I can still get my needs met because this is what's available
I
tomorrow.
think developmentally, that's one thing that the program has really grown with the kids. If you had our sixth graders and said, okay, you need to be thinking a few days ahead, or you need to check the announcements and plan on this, that would go way over the top of our sixth grade. Okay, even when your eighth graders were sixth grade, that would be too much. But as they've moved into eighth grade now, and they start moving into high school, and they start thinking about those college readiness skills, things don't happen every day. I need to plan more than, 3 hours in advance. So it's getting them past, and, I know they're 13 and 14 and their world exists in that moment, but it's really pushing them to think about beyond that moment and what do I need to take responsibility for. Also being down here, what I've seen with those announcements is when we do the daily dish, they hear it and they go, and then an hour later they're trying to remember what that was all about, so they're scampering to, Dan or Carly or Jen. Here, they have that resource to self-fix, or to figure that out on their own. So again, it's continuing to stretch them developmentally on what they need to be able to think about and plan about, and so forth. Because that way, when they get even into high school or beyond, and they know they've got activities in the evening, they need to be able to plan more than an hour in advance. They need to be able to look at a block. So that's, I don't know that that was an intentional plan, but some of those unintentional consequences of how things come, that's something that I've really seen the learners out there doing as well.
And I've been on announcements, working at 10:30 at night, and there's kids on there, you can see them on there.
Yeah, and they
And
pop up.
in the
so you're
morning,
there.
I get up at like 4:30, and that's one of the first things I do is like, while I'm having breakfast, work a little bit, and there's kids on there at like 5 o'clock. Again, I'm like, oh, this is great. They're eighth graders, on there, like concerned about stuff. So the developmental piece has been nice to see.
Okay. Sorry. Actually, can you just click on the progress chart? It'll actually make this live. Thank you. So I want to talk about the progress chart for a little bit. All of your kids have one of these shared with them. They're shared with all of us in Adventures too. When they first open it up, they'll bring you to bring you to this welcome page, and it talks about all the way we're kind of assessing those standards and what those things mean here. So extends meets with support, or coaching standard, no evidence of that standard yet, that kind of stuff. Across the bottom, it has the list of all the units we're teaching in order. So it's sort of iRefresh, iSearch, ILEA, which that kind of stuff is on the bottom. So if you click on iSearch, there's some valuable information here. The standards, just like in their Show Slow Grow template, show up here on the progress chart. And then here, when those standards are assessed, it'll say the level of assessment that they got. It'll say meets or extends or needs with support, something like that in this box. And then teacher feedback will show up here. So if they click on iSearch and they did standard number 3, and it's been graded by one of us, it'll say what their score was or what their level is, and then it'll say comments from us on there. In addition to comments on here, sometimes we'll put comments on to the document that they've turned into the turn-in tab, or that they've linked for their evidence. So feedback in a couple of different places on that. When you move to the progress chart, this is probably what you're most familiar with seeing with your learner is pie charts. So again, it's set up in order that we're going to move through kind of our year. And if you take a look at this, there's a couple of things I want to point out. The progress chart will start reading, the pie chart will start getting green once they've been assessed on the standard and they've met that standard. So once we put that in there, it'll turn that portion of the pie chart green. Underneath here, it's going to list all the standards that they have to do for each unit and which ones they are, the science, social studies, and language arts. And then if standards turn red, or the basic expectations turn red, that means they're past due, or we've hit the due date for them. And if it's red, that means we've hit the due date and nothing has been assessed for that student. If it turns green, that means it's been assessed and the pie chart should start populating. If it's gray or white or whatever color that is, it hasn't been assigned yet, or it hasn't been passed due yet. So you can see due dates when they pop up here, like these couple have due dates in them already, but once they get past them, they'll turn red if it's not there, or turn green if they've actually met that standard. Some kids, if their pie chart turns red because it's past due date, and they've actually turned it in, we can see that. So if you click on here where it says, click here to see submissions waiting for teacher evaluation. This is turn-in tab where kids turn in their work. So it'll give us when they turned it in, what date and time, who turned it in, what grade they're in, which unit they turned it in for, and then which standard where they did that work for. So then if their pie chart turns red because it's past due date, they can actually say, I turned it in, and you're asking that question at home. You know, I see your pie chart's red, it's past due date, have you turned it in yet? Yep, this is a great place to go. So you click on that, and that's a conversation you can have with them at home that says, you know, here I've turned it in, and here's where it is in kind of that sequential order of when we're gonna get to it. Yeah.
Just a quick question, who populates that information? Is it the teacher or the student as far as when they turned it in
The
this?
student will turn it in. So on their website, they have we have a link to what's called their turn-in tab. So they'll then do their evidence of learning. They'll go to the turn-in tab and they'll link their evidence to that, and they'll